There we go.
Hi, everybody. This is Larry. We're doing a painting demo today related to the carvings that Eric has been doing for the last couple of weeks. I have 3 or 4 of them here, and I'm looking forward to sharing some information with you. Eric did a really good job of helping us understand what this is going to look like. This is one of my little buddies right here that I painted. I carved, and I've got 4 of them, and I'm not promising to get any one of them done for sure, but I'm going to show you some techniques. So let's first of all talk about equipment. Let's talk about equipment first. Over the years, I have used these little doodads right here. Everybody's familiar with these little doodads, these little paint things. I have given up on them. I got a big supply. If you need some, just let me know. I hate them. And the reason why is, number one is, as the paint sits there, it dries out, number one. Number two is that because we're using this kind of paint today, it tends after a very short period of time to separate, and the stuff and the pigment falls down in the bottom of the tray, and you have to keep doing adding liquid and keep stirring. I don't like to do that, so I've given up on those. And what I've started using, and I almost use it exclusively now, is called a wet palette. I'm hoping that everybody's familiar with these. They're available almost any hobby store. A wet palette is nothing more than a sponge that holds water on top of paper that's special paper that also tends to not deteriorate when you put it in paper with water. All right. And I found myself in thinking about this that I almost exclusively use round brushes. The most important thing for me, though, in terms of round brushes is the fact that I want to be able to have a point on them. Once you lose the point, you really end up just using those for mixing. So that's there you go. So again, 90% of the brushes, I do use a liner once in a while, but that goes back to the birds I paint. And also I will use a very stiff brush, which is used for dry brushing. And I'm not going to try to do any of that today. That means Tennessee just got a little extra points, and Eric's happy about that. All right. Number 2, one of the things that, or wherever we are, one of the things that Eric did and really did a good job of is, remember he talked about all of these little places where there's a shadow. He said, create shadows. And that really is an important thing, because you need to have those to make your I call them eye candy. They're points of interest is what they end up being. But the other thing I wanted to share with you is that also I like the way he did the stop cuts. Those are important when you're painting, because when you make a stop cut like this, what happens is that the paint then stops also at the stop cut, and therefore it's not going to, your red or your blue or your green isn't going to fade or leak over into the white of the rough. And that's one of the things that you need to remember about, so that we can do that. And everywhere you can put a stop cut to stop the leakage of paint is a good thing to do. Okay, now let me think about where I'm going here. I thought there was one more thing I was going to say related to that. What is it? Yes. You don't carve your painting and then decide, you don't carve your wood and then decide to paint it. What you do is, while you're carving the wood, you need to think about what the painting is going to look like, because lots of times it's not too late, but it really complicates it later on if you don't think about the painting while in fact you are doing the carving. So always you carve to paint, not carve, and then paint. Okay, hope I made that clear. Now, the first thing I do is when I do my carvings, I use linseed oil on all of them. And what I like to use is this high, it's a little high dollar. You can use the linseed oil, the boiled linseed oil right out of Home Depot. No problem at all. I just like to use this stuff because you'll see that it is clearer and we don't end up really adding any color to the paint, to the carving itself by using this stuff. So the first thing I do when I'm painting is that I like to put, I'm going to move this out of the way. There we go. I like to put it all over it, all over it. Okay, I'm off camera. All over it. There you go. Thanks. And I'm going to do this with every one of these because that's what I do. And then I'm just going to, I want to make sure all the crevices are filled and all that kind of stuff. And then I'm going to set them over here and just set them down. That's all I'm going to do. And you need to know that I'm not worried about them drying before I paint. As a matter of fact, I would rather that I get to paint them while they're still wet, because that way then I have it, the paint that I'm using, the acrylic paint, which doesn't make any sense, but the acrylic paint will then penetrate, whereas if you let it seal over, let it dry, the chances are pretty good that it's going to just sit right on top of the linseed oil, and that's not what you want either.
So Larry, can you explain why you're doing this first and not at the end of your carving?
Oh, okay. The reason why I'm doing this at the first part of my carving is simply because I want to be able to, I get a better finish is what I do. It doesn't, this partially seals the wood, but not completely. And so you'll see that when I put this on, I have a lot more control over the paint than I do when I don't do this at the end. Years and years ago, we used to take linseed oil and add burnt umber to it, and or raw umber, oil based, and then we'd cover the paint. Actually, I remember Cleve taking it and just dipping it in a coffee can and let it sit for a while, and then that would put an antique finish on it. And that, you know, that's good for a lot of things. It's just that a lot of people, you know, that's a piece of the pie that some people just aren't real comfortable with. And if you don't know what you're doing, you end up with a completely different looking carving too. And so, by the way it's painted.
The other day, Ryan was doing a video and he talked about the linseed oil, and he talked about how he showed a couple of his carvings, how they're turning yellow. Because
right.
He was using the older,
right,
cheaper stuff and not the high dollar, high quality.
Right, and that's exactly what they'll do. Exactly. The other thing I would say to you is that Ryan is also doing a different style of this whole process, also related to especially the skin tones. He is just covering his carvings now. Was it burnt umber or raw umber? One of the two, and just that's the very first thing he does is seal it with that. And then he says that he gets a little better quality of facial tone and a better look. Everybody's got their own way. I mean, that's the answer to that question. Everybody's got their own way. One of the things that I like about what Ryan has taught me over the years is pick your colors before you start. And it's called, how do you like this palette? Okay. And so if we were going to start out, we could start out with, there's all kinds of reds out there, truthfully. I mean, I'm serious about it. This is only a portion of them. There's tomato red, primary red, brilliant red, Santa red, and each one of them has a little different value to it. You just have to choose which one you like. That's all there is to it. Today, I'm going to use the Santa red, but I brought along the others so you could see. Santa red, okay? And then we got to have a flesh tone of some sort. and this one's going to be a white American, you know, white guy. And so we're going to do the basic pink. And then we got to talk about his beard a little bit, because that's the white part. I like to mix those colors up, okay? And so we're talking about some titanium white. We're talking about some buttermilk and a little bit of gray, okay? The white, of course, I could use this golden straw too, if I wanted to, in the beard. But the white is going to go on a rough, and yeah, thank you. The white will go on a rough, and we'll do the red all the way around on his, and we'll do the, and that's where we're going to go. All right. You see, now I haven't even, you can tell, I'm sorry, right here's the camera, not here. Okay. You can tell that it's really not absolutely dry yet. You see, you can see it glistening. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some of the Santa red, shake it up a little bit, and then I put it on my wet palette over here. You can see how wet it is. See what it did? Okay. Then I'm going to take one of my brushes and just get a little bit. And then I'm going to mix it with that water. I should have taken more of the water off. I can still do that. That way I don't have to worry about losing that much of my palette. Okay. Let me show you one more thing in terms of equipment. This little buddy right here has a wire mesh in the bottom of it, and you can do this with it, and you're clean immediately. I don't know, I found this at Quality Art. I don't know whether the other stores have it or not. I use Windex as my primary brush cleaner, okay? So I do that, and then I just give it a little flip in the dry water. I mean, in the clear, clean water. All right, here we go. Again, let's talk about, I'm getting the heavy stuff first. Do you see where let me go here, right there. See, I'm going right for the heavy duty paint first, and I'm going to take that down. And the reason why is I'm going to go up in here first. That's a shadow. Can you see what no, you can't see what I'm doing. That's a shadow area right there. So I'm going to make that heavy. Again, I'm going straight for the heavy stuff. Go all the way around. Just like that. Okay. Over here. All right. And you notice that because I put that stop cut there, that it's not leaking over into the rough. I'm still using the heavy stuff right out of the middle of the paint. Okay. Now, you see I've given it a nice dark shadow all the way around. Now I'm going to take the paint and I'm going to mix it a little bit so that it's not nearly as heavy. And I'm going to just lay it right over top. I know it's hard to see on the video, but there is a different value that's going on up close to the edges as opposed to the center of the coat where I'm working.
So Larry, can you explain to me why you're painting? You're using a oil as a base, and then you're painting over it with a water-based paint. And they always tell you water and oil don't mix. How do you get it to mix here?
Well, it's not mixing. I don't think it's mixing. What I think it's doing is that the water and the acrylic are laying over top of the oil.
So it's not staining your wood.
It's not actually staining the wood. Yes, that's the
layer of paint on the top.
I'm putting a layer of paint on the top. Okay.
People watching the video might have a couple questions. And since this is recorded, I thought I'd ask a few questions.
Yeah, go right ahead. I'm happy for you to do that because I wondered about that on the way over here. How can I get that done? See, now we have, those are just brush marks that I screwed up, okay? What we have is a nice coat, and you'll see that it's darker up here. It's also darker up here because it's end grain and end grain here, but it still ends up being darker, and you end up with a nice little different shadows that are going on. Okay, now I'm going to do the same thing with the bonnet up here. I'm going straight to the heavy color first. I'm going to go around the edge right here. If you did those stop cuts first, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. If you did those stop cuts first and not later, you don't have to worry about it. That's what Eric was teaching you, was how to do those stop cuts. And I really thought that was important. Okay, we got that. Now I'm going back to the heavy stuff again. I'm going to do right underneath. And you see, if you were using those little tubs, you can't do this. It just doesn't work. You end up using 2 tubs instead of 1.
Talking about the little tubs, right at the top of your,
Yeah, right.
painting.
Or these.
Right.
Yeah, those things. Now I'm going back, and because I'm basically done with the red, and I got red on my fingers. That's the reason why he's getting red on him. But now I'm going to take this and I'm going to mix it all up. And you can tell just by looking at, it's a little hard to tell. I'm looking at it, but on the palette, you can see that it's really watered down is now what it is. And so when I put that on, I'm going to have to, yeah.
It's harder than it looks.
It is. When I put it on the Santa, it's much lighter than what I put around the edges. And again, that's those points of interest, those shadows, those things that make it stand out. It's a lot more obvious on the hat than it was on the back. So there you go. We got half of him done. All right. And we got dark. And we have, the nice thing is I don't have to be able to be seen on camera. I can look at what I'm doing right over there. That works pretty good. All right, now let's clean our brush. Set our Santa down. Let's do a little flesh tone. Let's just do that. Go over here. Over here. I personally tend to put the flesh tone on a little heavier than the other paints, just simply because it's so close to the color of the wood and et cetera, that you end up, if you don't do that, what you end up doing is ending up having, he doesn't look like he's got skin.
Stay on the camera.
Oh, stay on the camera, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm not watering this down like I did the. Then we'll do his nose.
But you do have water on your paper.
Oh yeah, that's the wet palette. And the nice thing about the wet palette is if I had to get up and leave right now, I put the top on it and I can come back in 2 days or I can come back in a week and I can pick up right where I left off because this wet palette stays wet. And that's really, really nice. Now this guy also has a mouth, so I'm going to paint his mouth too. Got to get underneath his nose. Okay, now we're going to do his mouth.
Camera.
Sorry. I'm so used to holding it close to myself. Okay, that's the flesh tone. Now all of a sudden I see something I need to take care of, so I'm going to do it. Fuzzy.
Keep a knife handy.
Pardon me?
Keep a knife handy.
Oh yeah, always. Keep a knife handy. All right, we got that done. Now let's talk a minute about what we're going to do with the white, because this is mostly there's an off, just like there's a lot of red on this Santa, there's awful a lot of white. What I like to do is to keep the rough and the, what'd you call that?
Pom-pom.
Pom-pom. And
ball, whatever you want to call
you're right, and this thing, the bottom rough, I want to keep that pretty white. I like to keep that white, but the hair needs to have different values of color in it. So I think what I'm going to do is we'll do, and it depends on how you like to do it, whether you want to put, when I talk about different values of color, I'm talking about, we could get as many as 4 different values of color into that beard if we wanted to. We could do the white, the straw, the buttermilk, the gray, and it'll make the beard and the hair would all go together. If you've seen, it's the rare Santa that has absolutely titanium white hair. And they just, and especially the fantasy Santas will. But you look at people on the street, they got a lot of yellow, a lot of gray, and in their hair. And I could have Eric come over here, but I'm not going to do that because he doesn't have near as much gray hair as I do. And so, yeah. All right. So the question is, do you want to put what kind of a base coat do you want to use for this? And I tend to do the buttermilk as a base coat because it's, other than the titanium white, it's the lightest. Okay. And I can cover it up with the white and the golden straw and the gray any way I want to. So I'm going to use the buttermilk as the base coat for his beard and mustache. You put it on the palette, it's hard to tell. Okay, now, again, I'm going back to I'll clean that brush out. Now, one of the nice things is that grid down in there underneath in this cleaner makes it real easy to clean out the brush all the way up into here, as opposed to some others. All right, let's put a little drop of water, not a whole lot. There we go. That was almost too much. Let's grab him. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to see how I'm mixing. Can you see? Yes, you can see how I'm mixing that paint. Again, I'm not going straight. I want to have something. One of the problems with using straight paint is it tends to seal over, and it begins to look more ceramic than it needs to, your painting, your carving, and it's harder to flow. It's harder to make the paint flow. Okay. And when I'm doing the base coat, I want to go with the flow so that it gets everywhere, okay? Am I still on camera?
You're doing great.
Eric, does it tell us how long I've talked so far?
No, we're going, we started at 11:14, 11:21, we're 11:47 right now. So
Okay.
we're talking for 16 minutes.
Okay. Well, I really want to do some different colors and on these other ones. I don't know whether that's actually going to happen. We'll see.
I found that it took almost 2 hours to convert the video,
Uh-huh.
and I went to bed at 11 and it still hadn't.
Okay.
It did this morning, so it took
Okay.
a long time
Okay.
to post on YouTube, but it was there this morning.
Well, that's the trouble with not living with home bandwidth.
Well, we've got one of the best. We don't have the business one, but we've got, I don't know what it's like 100 gigs a month or something like that we can download and upload. And so as long as we're just looking at internet and Netflix and whatever, it's okay. But when you start doing this type of thing, it's
a different ballgame.
It's a different ballgame.
Okay. Okay.
A 40-minute video would take about an hour to upload.
Okay.
Hour and a half.
There we are. See what we got? We got the yellow. We got the base coat on. All right. Just like that. Now, I'm going to clean my brush so I can get a different color. And now I'm going to use the gray. And I'm going to get a smaller brush. And what I'm going to do, there it goes. Just a tiny drop, smaller brush. And I do mean smaller. See there, tiny. This is a number, what is that? It's a round and it's a double aught. There we go. I'm going to mix some paint. And all I'm going to do is just put some of it in the recesses, which does two things. It highlights the recesses and it gives us another color in his beard. Okay, see that? Look all right? I think it does. We'll put a little up in his mustache. Okay. Clean the beard, clean the brush. Let's go get some of this. Let's do some of this golden straw. Again, just a tiny, tiny little bit of water. Thought about any more questions, Eric?
You can
That's all right.
You know, I was texting Doug later with me.
Okay, good. Okay, here we go. I'm going to do the same thing, except this time I'm going to also go deep.
So I know, oh, yeah, I got a question. Like, I know some carvers will do dark to light. So they put down their darker color first and then work their way out to light because the darker gets into the shadows. Why do you do it with the lighter and then the darker?
Because it's easier to cover the light than it is to cover the dark. Does that make sense?
It does. It depends on the shading. So if you've got a real dark, it's hard to cover that no matter what. You have to go straight paint.
You're right, exactly. And that's the reason why I use the lighter, so that yeah, it just gets to be a nightmare. You have to add up, you know, you ever try to cover up black?
Or pure white.
Or pure white, either one. It's hard to do. And you just end up putting layer upon layer upon layer.
In that one spot.
In that one spot,
Yeah.
right, absolutely. And another thing that, just for all of you that are listening, another thing that I've learned is that I've completely quit using gesso, okay? We spend way too much time putting detail into carvings to have it filled up with gesso. And so consequently, if I were to put, you know, if this were a bird or something, one of the things I found is a Gessonia paint called Smoke Pearl. And I mix Smoke Pearl and Warm White, which is also a Gessonia paint, together and use that now as my base coat, generally speaking, especially if it's light. And it works really well. So if you need gesso, I got it at home. You can have it. That's what I'd tell you. Okay, now we currently have 3 different colors on that beard. Okay, we have gray, we have yellow, we have golden straw, and we have buttermilk. We have all those colors. Now, the last one I'm going to put on there is the titanium white. And it becomes almost a straight paint. But what I am going to do is I'm going to wet it down a little bit. And you see, these are still the same color on the palette that they have been all along. And I can go back anytime and get a color. Whereas if you're putting it on those little tubes, now we've been talking long enough that stuff starts to settle, and you got to get it mixed back, and it's evaporated, and it just, there you go. Okay. Now I should be able to put this over that. No, it's not wet enough. Now it's almost. There we go. Now I'm just taking this titanium and putting it over the whole beard. Yeah, you can see. And it is pretty sloppy paint. I mean, you know, there's not a whole lot of pigment in it. It's mostly water. But what that does is it allows those other colors that we put on there to come through. Now, on the camera, I'm looking at the camera, it looks almost pure white. But the truth of the matter is, Eric and I can see all 3 of those other colors while we're sitting here. And that's kind of cool. So if you hold him way back, he's going to look white, but you get him up close and he's going to have all those extra colors going on. And that's just because we put this water with a little bit of pigment, the white pigment in it, so that's what would happen. Okay. How's that look? Oh, looky there. All right.
It gives you an opportunity now to add embellishments to the hat if you want to.
That's right. I can do that. I was going to do that anyways, but I'm going to cut that off just a little bit because it's easier. And then I'm just going to go back to my palette and get myself a little red paint and put it on there, and it's going to be the same thing. See there? There's a reason. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'll do some here on the bottom rough with the straight white, just so you can see what that looks like, okay? And then I want to show you an enhancement that there's a lot of people who use it, but most recently I saw it was a Dave Stetson enhancement, which I thought was really cute. Okay, here's the, yeah, stay on camera. All right, I'm gonna do it right. Can I do it right there? Yeah. Okay. You notice I'm kind of dippling the brush, and that's so I can get down into the grooves, okay, that I so painstakingly did. What you can do then afterwards, if you wanted to, you could take a warm white, you could take a gray, a real slight gray, and use a very stiff brush and dry brush over those, over the top of these, and add a little bit more value to what's going on down there. Eric's, we're working here. Time we get 2 or 3 of these done, we're going to be so good at this that
Hollywood.
well, yeah, Hollywood. I doubt that. But then Eric could find himself a new profession.
I like the idea of retirement as my new profession.
You know, I think that's a great idea myself. Somebody once told me it took about 30 seconds to get used to retirement. Now, you remember that divot that Eric all had us cut in the bottom of our rough so that it looked like it went underneath? Well, I'm painting that dead white right now, but in order to enhance that a little bit, I'm going back with a gray, and I'm going to add some water to the gray like this, and I'm just going to put just a smidgen of gray in there. What does that do? Creates a shadow. That's what we're trying to do. All right, there you go. That's what it looks like on the bottom. There we go. Everybody, I was gonna say, everybody happy with that, but then I don't know who I'm talking to. All right, now, since we're getting towards, you can do, in terms of palette selection for these other Santas, again, choose your palette. And remember that beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, okay? But it never hurts to have a color wheel close by also, because the colored wheels will help you understand which are warm colors, which are cold, which are complementary, which aren't, and that's an important piece, okay? All right, now, if I were going to do 2 more or 3 more, I was going to use this blue, which is called a Sapphire Blue. It's somewhere in between a brilliant, a true brilliant blue and sky blue, and it would have looked really good with the white, okay? And the other one I was thinking about doing was a totally green one, and this would have been a forest green is the color I would have chosen, and again, looks real good with the white. But you don't have to stay with the white, especially on the forest green. You could go to a primary yellow and have the yellow as the rough, and the bobble, pom-pom. So again, you need to choose that stuff before you start, only because it takes away those decisions right away. and you can then adjust those as you go along. But I can remember when I first started painting, I said, well, that color looks nice. I think I'll put that on. And I got it on there, and the next thing I know is, what am I going to use next? You know, so save yourself that grief and pick your palette first.
Give it some thought.
Give it some thought. All right. These are permanent pens. These are not Sharpies, although you could use a Sharpie. I find the Sharpie tends to splatter a little bit, but these are called Prismacolor, and I bought a little package of them. They go from 5 to 9, 8. They're real good for eyelining pupils and eyes and lots of things like that. But the way Dave was using them, let's see, I want a little, that'll be all right. Here's what Dave, can you see? Okay. Here's what Dave did. He drew a design like this.
You're talking about Dave Stetson for those that.
Right, thank you.
Dave is one of the CCA members, Caricature Carvers of America.
Right. And he's trying to keep up with Eric and doing videos.
I think he's got me beat.
Okay. But he did this and this. He also drew holly with little berries on it. This was a whole lot easier for me to do.
Trees.
Yeah, you can do trees. You know, the thing about using the black outliner is that they stand out.
And and this particular brand doesn't run when you
Right.
decide to paint or finish it with something else.
Okay. So you see, I got 3 of them there. Okay. Can I get it up close? Oh, looky there. There you can see.
Hold it still in the focus. Maybe not.
Okay. Maybe they can see the. Yeah.
Different colors there.
Yeah. See the colors? You can really see the gray. Okay. Okay. All right. So what I was going to do with those is I was going to use this. I was going to use Kelly green. It's a real bright green, and I was going to use the Kelly green. And how about just that primary yellow? It'd be pretty. Okay. All right. Again, tiny little brush, little bit of water. Again, I'm not looking to do this as a wash, but I'm also not trying to make it straight paint, okay? Let's put, I'm sorry. Okay, clean the brush. Go back to the yellow. Again, not trying to make it a straight paint, but just something that, yeah, you can see. Eric, you got a toothpick somewhere close? Okay.
So what I do have is a.
Oh, stylus would work. See what we got here, folks? See, that's kind of cool. Then you can go all the way around it with that on the bottom. Now, the other thing I was going to show you is that you can put snowflakes on him. Okay? Using, and Eric has a stylus. Styluses are, we used to use them with mimeograph machines, didn't we?
Right.
Yeah, but now they've taken, and they come in different sizes, the balls. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bigger ball like this.
I have a big one too.
This will work. Dip it in the paint. Okay.
Straight paint.
Straight paint. Let's go over here.
On camera.
On camera. Is that it? Yep. All right. 1, 2. Need some more paint. 3, 4. Okay. I'm not done, but that's where we start. Now I'm going to take a littler one. Aren't they mostly 5 snowflakes? 5 and 6?
Usually, yes.
I mean, you're the science guy. Okay.
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. End up a nice little snowflake. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you don't like what I mean, this one you can't see it, but this one didn't do completely, and neither did this one, but you can go back and do it. See, that's cool. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's some enhancements that you can do, and you know, the other thing is that if you can do those same things up here on the hat. You could let's see. Let's take the really small one and see. Yeah. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can put little tiny snowflakes up there. Like that. And just put those all the way around. These are the things that sell Santas.
That people want.
These are the things that people want. Okay.
It's all the little details on every carving you do.
The more details you put on, the longer they'll look at it, and the longer they look at it, the more likely they are to want it.
Yes.
Is that fair?
Whether you're giving it away or selling.
Right. It doesn't make any difference. Okay. So we got snowflakes up there. We got diamonds back here. You can do. Should I show them a holly?
Got about
Yeah. Let's do a holly. Here's my brush. Yeah, we got red and green. We can do that. Okay. All right. Tell me what a holly leaf looks like. You know.
It's pointed at the edges, usually 3 sides.
Right.
3 to a side.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2.
It's not a hard and fast number.
And then you can do one over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And then we'll put a.
Hold that up to the camera.
Okay.
Hold it up so we can see it. Yeah, just the holly leaf shape.
Yep, that's all it is. And then I'm going to put.
Stay on camera.
I'm going to put 3 berries in it. Okay. Now the berries are not going to be easy to do because why? Because they're so tiny. So I'm going to use the brilliant red this time. Oh, I don't like that. Primary red. That's what I want. Primary red. Oh, yeah. All right. We're going to use the tiny little stylus. Okay. Okay, here we are. Primary red. 1, 2. And do you see how the primary red even stands out.
Perfect. Oh,
Even stands out on top of the Santa red. Okay. Now we'll take the smallest brush I have, which I apparently have all, there it is. I've already, huh?
Double aught.
Well, this one is 5/0. Okay, here we go. We're going to use the green just because it's available. We're going to color in between the lines. And there we have a little bit of holly. Okay. Eric, you got one you want to throw in?
No, that looks great. The only thing I would do is throw in a tree, just as a conifer.
Let's make a tree.
Make a tree.
Make a tree. And we probably ought to use forest green
I would.
for that kind of tree. That's right. There we go. You want to outline him in black or just not?
You can do it both ways.
Let's do one without.
Okay.
And let's put it on the side of his cap. How about that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to use straight paint.
Stay on the camera.
Okay.
Right. It's like Bob Ross with a happy little tree.
Happy little tree. Now we got a happy little tree.
Awesome. I like it.
Okay. This is Larry. This is Eric. Eric's been my technician, my go-by today. He's done a wonderful, wonderful job. If you have any questions about painting, don't hesitate to call or email either one of us.
You can also put your question into the comment bar of this video as well.
There you go, into the video bar as well.
Larry, before we go, how would you finish this? Are you done finish it? Would you put a protective coating around the outside of it or anything?
All right. Normally I'm done, but there's a product called Testers that you buy at the hobby store, and it's called Dull, D-U-L-C-O-A-T, Dull Coat. They have clear coat, but you want the dull coat. And what happens then is when you put it on there, you spray it on. It's a lacquer is what it is. And it's basically a satin lacquer or a flat lacquer. And but I like the dull coat because it's really waterproof. And I would spray, if I really was worried about it, I'd spray this whole thing. It only needs to be sprayed once and it's sealed. That's how I would finish it.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, folks.
Have a good day. Bye.